President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday declared that with the outcome of the 2023 national elections, there would be no more easy routes to power than through the electorate. He said the 2023 elections had shown the growing strength of the nation's democracy and particularly the sophistication of the Nigerian voter when it comes to the choice of their leaders, stressing that politics would be very difficult now going forward. Buhari, who declared that democracy remained the best form of government in Africa, despite military incursion in some countries, also bade the outgoing Angolan ambassador to Nigeria, His Excellency Dr. Eustaquio Junario Quibato, and his United Arab Emirates counterpart, Dr. Fahad Obaid, farewell. Speaking when he received the newly installed Emir of Dutse Jigawa State Capital, Alhaji Mohammed Hamim Nuhu Sunusi at the State House, Abuja, the president said the failure of 10 governors to make it to the Senate meant that the only guaranteed route to power was the electorate, adding the voter was truly king when it comes to elections. Dr. Bati, is the voter truly king? Your thoughts on this?
Okay, I mean, this is clearly straightforward. Number one, the president of Nigeria was speaking at a forum where he was bidding farewell to ambassadors leaving the country. You don't expect him to say anything that is undiplomatic. Of course, he's to tell the world that, Nigeria has done very well in the last elections. His own ambition expressly expressed that he would deliver free and fair elections, a credible process. So you will expect him to say, well, we did well. But the issue is, does the average Nigerian feel that there is the growing strength of democracy in Nigeria? Does the average Nigerian feel that, in fact, there has been a guaranteed route to power, or that Nigerian democracy has matured? The international observers, the local observers, you and I, all of us who are here, okay, what is the evidence of our eyes and ears? The evidence of our eyes and ears would seem to be, in terms of what the majority has said, is that, look, the 2023 process was marred with irregularities, with imperfections, and that there is still a lot that needs to be done. And that all of that will lead to the conclusion that Nigeria's democracy is not yet mature, as the president is telling us, except the president of Nigeria and the people are in two different countries. But of course, again, you expect the president to speak in that manner. It is his party that has won. Okay, he as a leader of the All People's Congress, Progressives Congress, winning the election, will of course naturally be in a jubilant mood, so that he will not be accused, which is the normal pattern these days of anti-party activities. So as leader of the APC, he has handed over the baton. He has retained his party in power. Is that what is motivating the commentary of the president? But the truth of the matter is that the 2023 electoral process in Nigeria, as has been argued variously by local and international observers, is disputed, is competitive, and that nobody can rely on the evidence that is provided by just one party to the argument. And if you need any further illustration of how controversial that election has been, the Labour Party is in court. The People's Democratic is in court. Statesman Olusegun Obasanjo has said that, look, this is not the best of elections that Nigeria has had. So, but as president, talking to a foreign audience, what do you expect him to say? He will say, yes, the people have spoken. And then no more easy route to power. Okay, if we say no more easy route to power, 10 governors who wanted to go to the Senate, if you look at those governors, one by one, they have their own issues. Some of those governors are not so popular after 2 terms in their states. and the people no longer wanted them. That is the point. It's not about, about the strength of democracy. Some of these governors have behaved so badly that the people did not vote for them. You can go to the east and take specific examples from Abia to Ebonyi to Enugu State. Or you can even go as far as Benue, okay, where the governor wanted to go to the Senate, and others like him who also wanted to go to the Senate. The only person who got involved in the federal politics of the moment and who survived is probably Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State. So it's not very correct intellectual analysis to just say, oh, 10 governors did not go to the Senate, as they desired. Therefore, Nigeria democracy is strong. Or to say that, oh, in Lagos State, Labour Party won during the gubernatorial election. No. The big issue that we face in this electoral process, as informed analysts have pointed out, is that there is still a lot that needs to be done. And that's the big takeaway for Nigeria and for those who are looking at this subject. We need to take a second look at the big issue of electoral reform. The Electoral Act, specifically, we've been tinkering with it since 1999. We still need to tinker with it more. We had the 2010 Electoral Act after the 1999 general election. We have had others since then. That document is not yet perfect. We need to tinker more with the Constitution. After all, one of the controversial issues is about Section 134 of the Constitution, Section 131 of the 1999 Constitution. Okay, relating directly to elections. Even Section 285 of the 1999 Constitution relating to elections. So, the President of Nigeria, as a man at the desk now, should not just say, oh, everything is fine. No, everything is not fine. With due respect.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor, for highlighting that. Now, before the elections of 2023, the president had assured Nigerians, and which we keep repeating as a song, free, fair, credible elections. And he had said this so consistently that Nigerians dared to believe that this was what was going to be the outcome of the elections. Unfortunately, this democracy that President Muhammadu Buhari talks about as being mature and showing that the will of the people is what is paramount was not as a result of what the government did. It is actually credence to the resilience and the determination of Nigerians who wanted a better Nigeria, who wanted a better society, who wanted to come out and vote for their choice against, I must say, all odds. Let me just share very quickly what has been said to be some of the tenets or perhaps characteristics of democracy and put that side by side to find out if what the president has said is indeed accurate or matches. The first is independent judiciary. We have seen, and the talk has been about just how independent our judiciary is. For a strong democracy, if we must see Nigeria as a good democracy or a proper democracy, then we must look at the independence of judiciary. In the past election, was this the case? I'll leave that up to the viewers to decide. The other one is elected representative. Against all the odds, I say again, Nigerians went out to exercise their franchise and they met with a lot of frustrations, both from the INEC and other parties involved. So in terms of elected representatives, yes, we had elections, February 25 and March, in March. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to be without, as has been used a lot of times, irregularities. Civil liberties, opposition political parties, and the rule of law are some of the other characteristics of democracy. Let's come to opposition parties. Yesterday, we had Senator Magnus Abe from Rivers State. We know what happened in Rivers State. We know what happened in Lagos State. We know what happened in some states across the federation and how opposition parties were frustrated. For us to have a strong democracy in Nigeria, we must have an opposition party that is also strengthened and not frustrated or silenced. These are some of the things to consider before we can take the president's assertions, accurately. Well, moving on, former President Olusegun Obasanjo yesterday assumed that the work of the next administration in the country was already cut out, as it must ensure that it closed the division caused in the country as a result of the last general election. Obasanjo, who spoke in Abuja at a conference themed From Elections to Governance and Performance, organized by Next Year and the Ibadan School of Governance and Public Policy, believed such moves could help in healing and assuaging Nigerian youths who were angered by the shortcomings of the elections. Obasanjo, who insisted the next administration must explore all avenues at ending ethnic division that emanated from the recent elections and work to facilitate national moral rearmament and reconciliation following the divisiveness occasioned by the elections. However, he told his audience that he would always speak in the overall interest of the country because, and I quote, he said, "I am too old to keep quiet," end of quote. This, he said, has the potential to bring about healing and to assuage Nigerian youths who were angered by the shortcomings of the elections. Sabati?
Yeah, okay. President Olusegun Obasanjo again. I think we discussed him yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Okay, and now here we are talking about him again today. First thing that I would like to reiterate is that at that event, that was at the launch of a book by Professor Tunji Olaokpa. When we were in the villa, towards the end, it was permanent secretary of the State House. But very prolific author, very talented. At the moment, he's at the Nigerian Institute of Strategic Studies. He's also associated with the Ibadan School of Public Policy and Governance, and one of the leading authors, second generation, on public sector reforms. And at that occasion, our President Obasanjo rightly praised him for his industry, for his combination of theory and practice, and the ideas that he has been able to put on the table through publications on public sector reforms in Nigeria. Now, to President Obasanjo directly, he spoke about public sector reforms. He says, one of the urgent things we need to do in this country is to go back to public sector reforms. We've been on this subject of public sector reforms since the days of Jerome Udoji. What have we done with it? The crisis with policy that we have in Nigeria. You talk about policy, you come up with a policy, it doesn't work. Second, President Obasanjo also identified what the problem is. He talked about political will. Political will is forever the problem. Whether it's public sector reform, civil service reform, or any other reform. Nigerians are brilliant people. They talk about policy reform. But do we have the quality leadership to move it forward? President Obasanjo at that forum talked about recommendations to the next government. He says, oh, the next government should have the political will. Okay, we'll wait, we'll see. Will the Tinubu-led administration have the political will, for example, to do anything about electricity, about hope, which he advertises, about energy, about fuel subsidy, which we discussed yesterday, and a plethora of other issues. He made other recommendations. He was telling the next administration to think out of the box. Who thinks out of the box in Nigeria? We just follow the same routine, one administration after the other, and we engage in blame game. So I think President Obasanjo is quite right to say, look, blame game will not work. And he talked more importantly about moral rearmament, about value reorientation, about what he called reconciliation. We've been talking about reconciliation, healing, reorientation on this program forever. So President Obasanjo says we need that. Okay, some noisemakers, I know many of them on social media, will come around and say, what is Obasanjo saying? Why is he prescribing criteria, agenda for the next administration? They forget that he's also a citizen of this country and he has a right to express his opinion. In fact, he says nobody can shut him up. That as a living elder statesman, he has the right to speak. And that right is guaranteed under the Constitution. So for the benefit of those people who are saying Obasanjo should not talk, no, he can't talk because he's there. More importantly, he described the 2023 electoral process as a show of shame, which is in contrast to what President Buhari said earlier, which we also reviewed on this program, who was saying, look, democracy now has been strengthened. Okay, those who want to have a field day today on social media, who want to say, well, the election that Obasanjo himself conducted in 2007, was not perfect. And so who is he to comment on it? Okay, that's the business of those people. But we're dealing basically with the issues of today. And one of the final major statements that Obasanjo made is that Nigeria has a responsibility to end ethnic division. We spent a lot of saliva, on that particular subject on this program. The need to end the politics of ethnicity, of religion, and primordial attachments in this country.
Absolutely. As you rightly said, Dr. Bati, he spoke to very critical issues at the book launch. Well, permit me to just, following from what we just earlier discussed with regards to the president's view on the last recently concluded elections, to what a number of people have criticized to being, in the words of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, a sickening show of shame. It's important to balance the fact that he said that we should be on our way to reconciliation and healing with the fact that he said that we, number one, need to correct what happened, and number two, we need to ensure that there is no reoccurrence. So this goes back to that conversation around, can healing occur without there being justice or restitution? And I think he didn't mince words in that whilst he's calling for reconciliation and coming together and ethnic healing, we must address what happened during the elections and ensure that justice is being served before healing can commence. Move on to the next story. A bill to prevent Nigeria-trained medical or dental practitioners from being granted full licenses until they have worked for a minimum of 5 years in the country passed second reading at the House of Representatives on Thursday. This is aimed at addressing the increasing number of medical doctors leaving Nigeria for greener pastures and making quality health services available to Nigeria. Sponsored by Ganiyu Abiodun Johnson, it is titled The Bill for an Act to Amend the Medical and Dental Practitioners Act of 2004. Johnson said it was only fair for medical practitioners who enjoy taxpayers' subsidies on their training to give back to the society by working for a minimum number of years in Nigeria before exporting their skills abroad. Johnson said it was only fair for medical practitioners who had gone to the training, and he had elaborated on that. Now, he also talked about the fact that their skills should be used here in Nigeria before being exported abroad. Doctor, your thoughts on this, please?
No, I don't think that the bill will stand. Okay, the House of Representatives has passed it, second reading, but it was also a very controversial process in the House of Representatives. Some of the members of the House of Reps made the point that this will be a violation of fundamental human rights. Okay, if a country is going to say if you have been trained, then you cannot take your skills to another country for 5 years. What is that based on? Are we being told that everybody that goes into medical training in Nigeria has signed a bond? Many people who go to study medicine in Nigeria, they are now legally bound to work for Nigeria. In fact, we live in a country where scholarships, the National Scholarship Scheme, has failed, where even state bursaries offered by state governments no longer exist. In our time, even the state bursaries that you were given irregularly and episodically and unwittingly never worked. So if a family sends the child to school to study medicine, what is the legal right that the Nigerian government has to tie you down to a bond that you must work in Nigeria for 5 years? So it doesn't make sense. So I think that those members of the House of Representatives yesterday who raised the issue of fundamental human rights were in order. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, who incidentally is a lawyer, pointed out that Section 45, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution says rights are not absolute. Okay, yes, that section says so. He said, oh, with regard to public health. But that section does not, it's not on all fours with the rights of the individual to make his own choice. In a world that is driven by principles of globalization and individual choice, what kind of government will say you can't go where you want to go? Anyway, don't let me waste time on that. The whole principle behind this is that the man who proposed it, Johnson, an APC candidate from, I think, Ekiti State, was saying that we need to stem the tide of migration, brain drain, particularly of medical doctors. Last year, August, even the Nigerian Medical Association had expressed concern that more and more doctors were leaving the country. We have seen pictures of Nigerian doctors queuing up at hotels to exit to other countries. Okay, the concern here is not just in the medical sector. But in the medical sector, the House of Reps is expressing concern about doctors. How about nurses? How about radiographers? How about other medical professionals who are also leaving Nigeria in droves? What we will expect in form of an intelligent bill will be a proposal by the legislature to say that Nigeria has to do X and Y to deepen the health sector in Nigeria, to provide better hospitals, to provide better incentives for medical personnel to remain in Nigeria. Nurses are living in droves. Many nurses want to go to US. They want to go to Saudi Arabia. They want to go to UK. Labor will follow where it can get better value. So this Japa syndrome, as it is called, is because of the failure of the Nigerian state. It's because of the failure of Nigerian leadership. And so the Parliament of Nigeria should not come up with specious arguments about why people should remain. After all, the Nigerian Constitution even allows for dual nationality. So there's nothing that stops anybody from saying, I don't want to offer my services to Nigeria again. I want the nationality of another country, and I'm off. A current minister of health says, oh, we have enough doctors. Anybody that wants to go should go. Have they invited Dr. Ngige to come and contribute to this conversation? What changed since Dr. Ngige, minister, in charge of labor and employment, reported to Nigerians that any medical doctor can just leave. Nigeria will survive. So these are the dimensions to this conversation that I consider curious and debatable.
Absolutely. It's curious and ironic that the Minister of Labor and Employment is a doctor, Dr. Chris Ngige. And under his tenure, we have seen such a massive, in the words of this report, exodus of not just doctors, but medical practitioners from Nigeria to the rest of the world. And might I add that it's not just in the medical profession. If you look at other industries, you have the banking industry, you have the tech industry, Nigerians are living in droves. Why? In search of greener pastures. The National Association of Resident Doctors said that 85% of doctors are leaving to seek greener pastures. This figure is corroborated by the medical and dental consultants of Nigeria, who have said 9 out of 10 Nigerians are leaving to seek better opportunities abroad. Rather than the House, rather than the reps pushing a bill or, first of all, investigating or understanding the reason why this is happening, they're rushing to pass a bill to infringe on the rights of these doctors? How about passing a bill to improve the conditions of doctors in Nigeria? How about investigating, as we've asked earlier on, or bringing in the Minister of Labour and Employment in for questioning as to what is going on in that sector, rather than trying to fix a problem by making it even worse, by doing something which could potentially be illegal. It is a big issue. This is not the first time we're talking about it, that we are losing our best heads in Nigeria to different parts of the world. Canada is said to be the new capital of Nigeria because we have so many Nigerians who are moving in droves to Canada. The United States of America has always attracted the best in our medical profession. The United Kingdom has opened its doors wide to not just doctors, but nurses and teachers also. We have a critical issue on our hands, and we are not facing it with the right solutions. Instead, we're looking for ways to stop people who legitimately want to live well, earn well, and look after their families from doing so without fixing the problems that we have back home. It would not work. And this is a call to the government officials, particularly the Minister of Labour and Employment, to fix this problem. We have a labour issue in our nation at the moment. We need to fix it.